we all have different things in our life that have scarred us. We want to act like those scars don't exist. So those scars, like, if you go out and you get cut, that scar is going to be there on your arm. You can go down and look at that cut and say, oh, or that scar and say, oh, that happened from, I was in the kitchen, or what happened. We have the same thing on our brain. I have all these scars on my brain from growing up, from, being abused, from suffering through life, from having a learning disability, from stuttering, from having just a really bad childhood. And so all those memories, I had to cut open that scar and go into it. And that was a hard process for me to do. Not only was that a hard process for me to do, for me to have the courage to share that with people, because I'm the so-called toughest man on the planet. So they think. So for me to break open that shell and tell people, hey, that wasn't always me. It's hard to do, it's hard to do. So it was a tough process.
Yeah, absolutely, man. I'm so glad you did peel that back.
Yeah,
because
tough.
it's so easy to live that title.
Oh yeah.
But when you the fact that you had the courage to break down that title,
right,
to actually lay it out, it's going to open up the door for so many more people.
Well, I had to do it because, throughout this journey, I started becoming this new person. I started creating this new person. People started seeing me as this amazing superhero. In the back of my mind, I knew the real story. And I was like, man, one day you have to really share it. And I'm like, man, but do you have the courage? It's great to live right here. I've established this. People think you're great. Just stay here. Don't go back. Let's not go back. But the only way you can help people out is let them know that this is possible. So I had to go back and say, this is where I come from.
Yeah.
And where I come from is hell.
Absolutely. And now when you go back, you talk about how your childhood was a nightmare.
Right.
Tell us about some of the defining moments in your childhood that actually framed that experience to being a nightmare.
Well, my dad was a person that, he was an alcoholic. He was really big on being a powerful man. And he had two different sides to him. He had a side that once you left our house, so our house was the dungeon. No one knew anything about about the inside of that house. The inside of that house was horrible. It was evil. Like the evil monster came out to play. Wow. But once he left that house, he was the nicest person on the planet. So no one knew, who this guy was. So the scarring started happening inside the dungeon. And my dad didn't really believe in us going to school. He had a family business, and the family business was a skating rink and also a bar. So my dad owned, it was called the Vermilion Room was the bar, and the skating rink was called Skateland. So from the time I was able to walk, I was working that skating rink. And I worked it from like 9 o'clock at night until like 12 o'clock in the morning pretty much. That's what we did. I'm 4 years old, scraping gum off the skating rink floor, doing stuff like that. Me and my brother and my mom. Once the skating rink was shut down, the bar would open up. The bar would be open from like midnight to like 4 o'clock in the morning, 3 o'clock in the morning. Once that closed down, we'd go upstairs and clean the bar. So by the time you work like this, I'm a young kid. It's time to go to school. So most time we didn't go to school. So we missed school a lot, but thank God for me. I didn't like school anyway. With a learning disability, with a stutter, I had white splotches all over my skin from being stressed out, hair, patches of hair falling out at a young age. And once my dad got drunk, that's when the nightmare began. And, he'd get drunk and he'd get violent. And we got beatings quite regularly, probably at least once or twice a week. And the beatings weren't like, hey, I'm going to give you a whipping because you did something wrong. It was like, hey, I don't feel good today. And you get beat for that. And my mom got a lot of the beatings, and it would just trickle down to me and my brother. So that foundation of life that I didn't have, that's how it started off for me. And it's progressively got worse. So when you have a horrible foundation, it's like building a house on a fucked up foundation. This is what you're going to get. Any kind of earthquake or something happen, the house is going to go down. Sometimes, it doesn't even take an earthquake. It takes a little windstorm. So that was me. I was just a little windstorm away from breaking.
Yeah.
All the time. A windstorm away from breaking. But no one knew it. I walked around like I was a pillar of strength at a young age. But that internal conversation you're having back here is this weak little kid, very afraid. And I think that's what makes the book very powerful, because I take you there.
Yes.
I take you to that spot of, I'm superhuman now, so you think. But a lot of people have a lot of problems that they can't overcome.